So if you can have a guy that's in the audience that's yelling, I him, now me, I him, now me, and then that guy gets arrested for child charges, like what is going on here?
But there was something else going on here. Epstein was not some sort of whiz kid hedge fund manager. Epstein was playing a part. Epstein was a LARPer. Epstein was cast for a specific role, and he played it really well.
I don't believe this kid right now could possibly be the
I don't necessarily think they know what's going on yet. There's a lot of weird going on with this.
I know.
None of these things make any sense to me. Like, you're telling me that this kid who's not military trained, this guy, first of all, how did he get to the roof? How come nobody was looking? How come nobody was like, there's a direct line of sight between where he's sitting and those roofs? You guys didn't check? You don't have a drone? Like, that's insane. So he's on the roof. He jumps from the roof. He jumps down 14 feet.
Charlie Kirk's death isn't sitting right with a lot of people. According to Joe Rogan, this wasn't some random tragedy. It looks premeditated. What started as a heartbreaking story is now spiraling into one of the most baffling and suspicious events of the year. Rogan isn't holding back, and his take is fueling a storm of questions about every angle, including the behavior and decisions of Charlie's widow. Everyone's asking, what really went down and who's telling the full story? It all kicked off when Joe Rogan broke down the case on his podcast, flat out saying the official story just didn't add up. He highlighted bizarre details that the mainstream media seemed to overlook, like the photo of the supposed suspect, a 22-year-old holding what looked like a high-tech scoped hunting rifle. Rogan even called out how the weapon looked way too modern and spotless for the situation being reported. But things got even crazier. Another man, much older, suddenly started screaming right after the initial claim, yelling, "I did it!" before, shockingly, reportedly pulling down his pants. The whole scene is wild, chaotic, and raising a ton of red flags about what actually happened that night.
Is a coincidence. Hold on to that thought. Did you know that Charlie Kirk's father, Robert W. Kirk, was actually the architect for Trump Towers? Also, did you know that Erica Lane Kirk won Miss Arizona USA in 2012? Don't forget, Donald Trump ran Miss America from 1996 until 2015. Seeing the correlation here? Now, not saying age difference is a big thing, but did you know Erica was 5 years Charlie Sr.? But this is where coincidences aren't coincidences. People, this was so arranged. And there's so much more to Erica Kirk. Kind of like how she was all into basketball, didn't want to be all girly, never liked to dress up, even cut all her hair off, and ended up being Miss USA. How does that happen? How do you go from sports to Miss USA? And then they meet at a turning point event in 2018, where she's interviewing for a job for turning.
For Rogan, these details didn't just seem odd. They felt way too convenient, almost like a setup designed to let whoever was really involved slip away without leaving a trace. He even brought up how people were saying the suspect supposedly took the weapon apart and then put it back together again, which raised even more eyebrows because the whole explanation sounded messy and unbelievable to a lot of viewers. The way Rogan broke it down made the entire situation feel staged, at least in the eyes of the online crowd reacting to his take. Then the clip of Rogan's comments exploded across social media within minutes. A short snippet of him questioning the official version spread everywhere. And that's when things really took off. Elon Musk, who got tagged under the clip, jumped in with one of his mysterious, cryptic one-liners. The truth doesn't hide forever. That single sentence sent the internet into a frenzy. People started replaying Rogan's segment over and over, slowing it down, analyzing each second like detectives. They weren't just listening to what he said, they were trying to piece together what Musk's reaction might mean, wondering if he was hinting at something deeper or reacting purely off Rogan's doubts. The whole situation created this massive wave of online theories, with everyone trying to figure out if there was a hidden layer nobody had noticed before.
22-year-old,
Yeah.
whatever. And I was almost going to be like, dude, you think he's got the capability to do that?
Yeah, well, listen, there are people that look like that have the capability to do that.
Pretty
yes.
accurate.
Nope.
No?
Not hard. Not hard at
Not
all.
hard.
Let me dispel that.
Okay.
Okay. 200 yards from a prone position with a dead-on rifle. So if you have a dead-on rifle, so you set this rifle, you set your 0 to 200 yards, right? You know how far you're going to It is not hard at all.
He shot a lot.
You don't have to lot.
So
I could do it tomorrow.
If you're no, but you are experienced. If it's someone that's never, could they do it?
100%. Not
Really?
if they've never. They wouldn't know where to look. They'd have a hard time acquiring the.
As the clip went viral inside this fictional storyline, the conspiracy chatter went wild. People online couldn't understand why two major public voices like Rogan and Musk were suddenly locked in on a case that, in the story, was supposed to be long closed. Was it just random timing, or were they dropping signals on purpose? The timing felt way too sharp for a coincidence in the eyes of the online crowd, and folks started digging like crazy. Then things got even more twisted in the narrative when Musk started liking several posts from commentator Candace Owens, who in this fictional world had been calling out the media for supposedly leaving out key details. That move made the internet explode even louder.
Like when you look through a scope, like when the reticle is weird. Like it's sometimes
Takes a
hard.
minute.
You got to know the distance that you have to be from it to really line it up in your sights. But you could get a guy like my friend Andy Stump, who was a sniper in the SEALs. You could get him, and he could show you how to do it in an afternoon, and then you could hit steel at 200 yards every time you pull the trigger.
One day you could learn
Yeah.
that. Wow.
Yeah. Not that hard.
Because it feels insane to me. I'm like, that
No.
seems tough.
It seems tough. It seems tough. We still haven't figured out whether or not the gun that Trump had a sight on it, because we weren't sure if it had a sight on it or if this guy was using iron sights. That was 140 yards. If you shot with iron sights, that's a lot harder, because iron sights is you're lining up. So you have these two things in the back and there's one thing at the front of the barrel, and
Right.
you got to line those.
Suddenly, hashtags about Charlie's widow were everywhere, and forums packed up with speculation so fast, it looked like the whole internet clocked in for detective duty. People convinced themselves that Rogan and Musk were sitting on info everyone else didn't have, and they treated each new like, repost, or quote as a secret code. Even old-school media started sliding the story into their broadcasts, acting like they weren't paying it attention while clearly boosting it even more. It was the classic move. Pretend to be neutral while giving everyone something to gossip about. The entire situation turned into this huge online storm, and everyone wanted a piece of it. But once Rogan's full podcast episode dropped in the fictional storyline, things got even darker. He wasn't just calling out tiny slip-ups, he was straight up saying too much wasn't lining up, and people couldn't ignore that energy. He pointed at a bunch of red flags: the weapon details, the weird timeline, the strange behavior shown by the fictional suspect, plus how investigators weren't giving solid info.
Up perfectly, and that's how you stay accurate. That is a lot harder to do.
It's like old have those, right?
Sure,
Yeah.
pistols.
Yeah,
but
pistols
you can
got
buy a
them.
Glock,
Yeah.
that's what it comes with.
Right.
But this kid had a rifle with a scope. Now here's where it gets weird. The first images of this rifle with a scope, I swear to God, it looks like he has a composite stock on it. Like it looks like a modern 30-06 rifle. So a 30-06, so that's the rifle. 30-06 is like, that looks like a very modern looking stock. I mean, it might not be. It might be just a bad resolution. It might be wood. It's hard to tell. But if you showed me that and you said, hey, this is my cousin's rifle, is this any good? I'd be like, looks like a standard.
He even joked that if this plot were in a movie, nobody would buy it because the whole setup sounded too wild and unbelievable for a script. Then Owens jumped back on a live stream, and that's when the whole situation inside this fictional storyline took another wild turn. During her broadcast, she claimed that Charlie had started digging into topics that, according to her, made certain powerful groups in the US and their allies extremely uncomfortable. She insisted that his questions and demands were shaking people who didn't want anyone poking around in their business, making it sound like he was becoming a problem for folks way higher up than anyone expected. Owens didn't stop there. She said that the note mentioned in the story hinted that someone close to him wasn't being straight with him, which instantly grabbed everyone's attention. She even showed screenshots during her stream, displaying messages where he talked about how he had Jewish donors pulling out of funding him just days before his life was taken in this fictional plotline. The way she presented it had people in the comments losing their minds, wondering who he was talking about and why everything suddenly seemed so shady. And Rogan's fans started piecing things together, and what they found was wild. They noticed that a lot of Owens' claims seemed to line up almost perfectly with what Rogan had said earlier. Both of them kept talking about trust issues, pointing out inconsistencies and hinting that something about the widow just didn't add up. It wasn't just coincidence anymore. It felt like these two were shining a light on the same mysterious corners of the story.
You were highly skilled
To disassemble a
to
gun.
disassemble a rifle so that you can get it in a backpack. And by the way, not going to fit.
Not gonna fit in a backpack.
And then somehow or another reconnects it once he gets off the roof? What? What's
that's
that
what they're
about?
Is that what they pitched, huh?
Yeah. And then he's supposed to get it in that stupid backpack. It's literally, it makes no sense.
But things got even crazier when people dug deeper into Erica's connection to Donald Trump. Suddenly, a clip resurfaced that everyone had forgotten about, and it hit like a bombshell. In the video, the president appears to be mocking Charlie, joking about how Charlie wasn't able to dodge a bullet like Trump supposedly did. Fans were freaking out, replaying the clip over and over, analyzing every word, every gesture, trying to figure out if there was some hidden message or secret meaning behind it. The entire internet was buzzing, and theories were spreading faster than ever as people tried to connect all the dots between Rogan, Owens, Erica, and Trump in this bizarre and twisted story. And just as the online frenzy hit its absolute peak, the Utah prosecutors dropped a bombshell that reignited the chaos. They released a series of text messages allegedly sent by the suspected assassin, 22-year-old Tyler Robinson, to his romantic partner. The internet immediately went ballistic, replaying every theory and dissecting every detail. Social media users, including countless influencers with massive followings, were quick to throw shade on the authenticity of the messages. Many outright claimed that the supposed texts where Robinson allegedly confesses to Charlie Kirk were completely fabricated by the authorities to make the story fit a narrative. People were pointing out that the tone, wording, and overall style of the text didn't feel like something a 22-year-old would write. The account and the messages seemed far too detailed.
If you want things to be...
I wanted it so bad.
If you want people to lose all faith that anyone is going to solve anything, you add a bunch of... If you're going to kill a guy, you add a bunch of other wacky that doesn't make any sense and you spam it out there at the same time. You leave a gun that didn't do it.
Almost like it was scripted and not believable at all. Within hours, discussion threads and comment sections were flooded with debates, analyses, and wild theories. Fans and skeptics alike were picking apart every line, arguing whether this was a real confession or a highly orchestrated setup. The alleged text had inadvertently thrown the entire investigation into question, turning what was already a confusing story into a full-blown online spectacle, with no one sure who to trust anymore. Steve Bannon, former advisor to U.S. President Donald Trump, didn't hold back on his podcast, calling the text too stilted and way too scripted to be real. He made it clear he wasn't buying the official story, and his comments added fuel to the already blazing online firestorm. People immediately started questioning every little detail, looking for more inconsistencies in the story. And it didn't stop there. On the day of the incident, some extremely suspicious acts were reported that sent investigators and online sleuths into overdrive. SD memory cards were mysteriously removed from cameras set up by Charlie Kirk's crew, wiping out potential evidence. Meanwhile, a man could be seen on footage briefly adjusting his hat just seconds before the fatal shot rang out, a gesture that some viewers thought was far too calculated to ignore. Then there's the larger context. How many mass incidents have occurred in America over the past decade? Are we counting gang violence or only headline-grabbing tragedies? Andrew Colvett brought this up on last week's edition of The Charlie Kirk Show, pointing out that when you stack the numbers together, the patterns start to look disturbingly familiar. Every new revelation, every odd detail, seemed to make the whole situation feel more like a carefully orchestrated event than a random tragedy, leaving viewers stunned and hungry for answers. The story surrounding Charlie's death is far darker and more twisted than the media is letting on, and a lot of people online are starting to point fingers at his wife, suggesting she may have been involved in some way. On Reddit, one user wrote, "The video she took of herself up close holding Charlie's hands, saying over and over that she loved him. It felt sketchy." Then she posts it to her Instagram. We all grieve differently, but that didn't feel like grief, neither did her speech. When she placed her hand on his office chair, some viewers said the entire scene came across as staged. Diving into her background, critics pointed out that Bravo has a very particular personality type often seen on reality TV shows, which made her actions even more suspicious. Another user added, "These people are all grifting ghouls. No normal person erects a circus with pyrotechnics for a memorial just a week after their husband is murdered." However, some speculate she could just be a pawn in a much bigger game unfolding after Charlie's death. "I think it's all orchestrated by Turning Point America," one comment suggested. "She's probably in shock and just doing what she's told." What do you think the real story is? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay updated on all the latest twists in this unbelievable saga.